Those of you who have played Nuka-World have already gone through the Gauntlet. You know the story already, so I'm gonna sum it up and instead focus on the victims of the Gauntlet whom we find when we explore it. Overboss Colter set up the Gauntlet at Nuka-World as a way to entertain the other Raider gangs. This entertainment was necessary to prevent mutiny. They had a slave named Harvey greet people who stumbled upon the Nuka-World Transit Center. Harvey would then spin a sad and tragic tale about how his family was kidnapped by raiders, encouraging you to board the monorail and head on over to Nuka-World. You go into a nearby control room, turn on the power, and then ride the monorail to Nuka-World. It's only as we pass by a tree with corpses hanging from it that we realize that we have been duped.
So, Harvey bagged another sucker to help his family. His name's Gage, Quarter Gage, and the truth is you've been set up. This ain't no rescue mission, it's a death trap. But if you somehow make it through alive, I have an interesting offer for you. In the meantime, have fun and put on a good show. I'll be watching.
When we arrive at the station in Nuka-World, the Nuka-World radio host Red-Eye greets us.
Attention all my favorite undesirables out there. In case you haven't noticed, looks like we got ourselves some fresh meat to run the gauntlet.
Red-Eye is in charge of Nuka Raider Radio. He's the Three Dog, or Travis, of Nuka-World. But apparently he also recounts the play-by-play actions of victims whom they place in the Gauntlet over the radio. Most people die in the Gauntlet. We learn from the lore of Nuka-World that the Raiders have to routinely go into the Gauntlet to clear out the bodies. But those who manage to survive wind up in the Colter's arena where the Overboss fights them to the death. You are not the only Gauntlet explorer to survive. Of the survivors we know about, there is Sabbath, a gunner with a stealth boy, Wretch, a raider in raider power armor, Rage, a super mutant who survived. This tells us a lot about super mutant intelligence. Commander Bear, a gunner in a full suit of T-45 power armor, Sabine, a raider with a power fist, and Rogue Knight, a former Brotherhood of Steel knight in a full suit of T-60 power armor, wielding the unique legendary Gatling laser Aternus. The Overboss of Nuka-World will then have the choice either to fight these survivors, let them go, or kill them in cold blood. But for now, I want to focus on the stories of those who did not survive. I want to learn more about the victims of the Gauntlet, the people who breathed their last breaths inside this morbid maze of death. We find the first victim near the very entrance to the Gauntlet. Red-Eye even taunts us about it over the radio, mocking the poor dead man.
And she's off! Let's hope our latest prey can draw a little inspiration from our previous victims. Ugh.
This was Sykes, and everything we know about this guy is really confusing. First of all, he looks like a raider. Specifically, he looks like a pack member. He has the dyed hair of a pack raider. What is a pack raider doing in the Gauntlet? The Gauntlet is for people who have never been to Nuka-World, who don't know that this trap exists. On his body, we find Sykes' old letter. Now, the Fallout Wiki actually has this incorrect. It says that Sykes wrote this letter, but he didn't write the letter. It was obviously addressed to him. The person who wrote the letter is a man named KC. In it, we learn that Sykes stole KC's jet and sold KC's personal minigun named Fate for 100 caps. It really upset this guy KC, and so KC says, "I'm out, I'm done taking care of you, good luck out there on your own. You won't last a day." So a lot going on here. First, Fate has a capital F. It's interesting that Bethesda would take the time to mention a named minigun named Fate. We would expect to find this minigun on the inventories of other merchants in the game, but we don't. The minigun named Fate isn't anywhere in the game, it's only mentioned here. My bet is that this is a piece of cut content. They originally put this in the game to clue you into the fact that Fate existed, but then they never bothered to place it in the game. The second is KC. Who is KC? Well, there are a handful of new characters from Nuka-World whose last names begin with C. Overboss Colter is one of them. It could be that Sykes was a personal friend of of Colter, but then Sykes used all of Colter's jet, sold Colter's personal minigun Fate, and so in revenge, Colter placed him inside the Gauntlet. This would explain why the corpse of Syke is that of a pack raider. The problem with this theory is that the note doesn't say anything about revenge. All the guy says is, "I'm done taking care of you." This gives me the impression that maybe they were out here together and stumbled upon Nuka-World accidentally as a pair. Maybe once KC discovered what Sykes had done, KC went on ahead on his own to explore the Gauntlet by himself. If that's the case, we should find KC's corpse later on, and I think I might have found it. I'll let you know when we get there. Now, this first trap is the hardest in the entire Gauntlet, at least for me. It's just really difficult to sneak through a gallery where the walls are lined with turrets that can see through your stealth. This character has high levels of stealth and was even wearing chameleon armor, and I still couldn't get through. It took a couple of tries, a few instances of nerd rage, and a handful of time-slowing chems before I was able to complete this with my level 19 character. Now, this trap does have bodies, but the bodies here are not named. We find the bodies of gunners, settlers, and traders. None of these have notes or any story. Moving on, we have two options. We can go through a room lined with tripwires, or if we have high levels of lockpicking, we can pick a master lock to bypass them all. If we do pick the lock, Red Eye has some unique dialogue for you.
Yes.
So our little Vic managed to pick one tiny little lock. Let's see how long the Gauntlet lets her enjoy that one.
However, if you don't go through the locked door and instead trip all of the tripwires, we find the corpse of Lucky. Lucky is wearing Wastelander clothing. I'm assuming this was a wandering trader. Strangely enough, we don't find anything interesting on this corpse. No notes, no holotapes. But the name Lucky is interesting because in the game, there's a very rare item called the Lucky Rabbit's Foot. This is, of course, a reference to the real-world superstition of the Lucky Rabbit's Foot, but this very rare item in the game is equipped to the grenade slot in your weapon's inventory, gives you an additional 10% bonus to the experience you earn while it's equipped, and gives you 3 luck. There's a small chance that the Lucky Rabbit's Foot will drop on the raiders that you kill in Nuka-World. However, it's a very small chance. So small, in fact, that I've completed Nuka-World with 3 different characters and I've never seen it drop. My bet is that that item was originally intended to be on Lucky's corpse. If that were the case, you would find it early when you first enter Nuka-World, allowing you to benefit from the experience boost for the entire DLC. However, at some point, I'm sure one developer said, "We can't just give this to them on Lucky's corpse. It's way too powerful of an item," and he would have been right. A 10% experience bonus as long as you have it equipped, and plus 3 luck? You'd be shooting critical hits out the wazoo. So my guess is that this level-headed developer instead made it an incredibly rare drop on the Raider loot table. But I must admit that this is all conjecture. If not true, then we really don't have any story associated with Lucky. The next body we find is the corpse of Ophelia, and this is the saddest story in the Gauntlet. Ophelia, like Lucky, was probably a Wastelander. On her corpse is Ophelia's unsent letter. It's a letter to her mom and dad. Ophelia ran away from home. She spent her entire youth living with her parents in an underground bunker where they kept her safe. Her parents knew well the dangers of the world and they were overprotective. But she wanted to explore the world. She was young. She has her health, her youth, her beauty. She wanted to go to Diamond City, find a job, and a place to live. And then she taunts her parents. She says, "You think I can't make it out there in the world on my own? Well, I can. I'm a big girl now. I'm not that little girl who slept with her teddy bear as a child. I am an adult, and I can take care of myself." She tells them that she's going to get her own home in Diamond City, and they're allowed to visit, but they can't bring her back to the bunker. But she ends by saying, "I still love you both. Ophelia." This young girl died in the Gauntlet for the amusement of the raiders. They don't care about the mother and father who are back in their bunker wondering what happened to their girl. The mother and father who never got this letter because it was unsent, whose daughter just disappeared one day, and who will never hear from her again because she lies here, dead. The raiders didn't steal anything from her, they didn't enslave her, they didn't use her, they just killed her because they thought it would be funny. All of her youthful dreams and ambitions are snuffed out in a moment. Wasted. Perhaps she died to an injury that she sustained earlier in the Gauntlet while trying to unlock this safe. Next to her corpse is a large safe, booby-trapped with a tension trigger. The lock, however, is only a novice lock. Leaving Ophelia to rest in peace, we round the bend to find 3 different paths before us.
It's decision time. All doors lead to death. Some just a little slower than others.
We're gonna quickly open all 3 and run.
I think that monkey is playing your death march, Vic.
Turns out that there were fragmentation grenades in the far right one. The middle door had a cymbal-clacking monkey trap attached to a gun sitting on a garbage can behind you, and the only exit is the door on the left. Passing through the door, we come into a room highly irradiated. In a hole to the left, we find the corpse of Corin. Remember when I said that KC, the author of Sykes' old letter, may be further on in the Gauntlet? Well, here we find a man whose name is Corin. We don't know his first name. It might start with a K. This very man may be KC. And like Sykes before him, this man is a raider. On his body we find a note labeled Ramblings. Corin is not an eloquent man. In his note he says, "Writing sucks," but we learned that he did all of his jet. He hates being in this trap. He's surrounded by nuclear barrels, but he took all of his Rad-X. He's just gonna lie in this corner and pass out because he doesn't think anyone is stupid enough to come after him. He ends by saying, "I think that guy Harvey lied to me." Remember, Harvey is the name of the man at the transit center who lured us into the Gauntlet.
Hope someone brought their rat away, because our little Vic is about to get roasted like a squirrel on a stick.
Luckily, I had my hazmat suit with me because this place would have fried me up. In the back of the room, on a shelf, we find the key that gets us out of here. Using the rusty key, we can then pass through the big red door. Our success annoys our good friend Red Eye.
Someone thinks she's a real tough gal, eh? But the Gauntlet ain't through with her yet.
Down the broken cement floors, we pass by a skeleton on the ground to go through a door into the Nuka-World access tunnels. In the following room, we can use a terminal to activate all of the turrets in the next room. But of course we don't want to do that because they're going to be aimed right at us. So we can hack it for the experience and then move on. There's a sleeping bag and a broken wall for those of you playing on survival. Here we find a skeleton with sadly no story. Now the turrets are all turned off, but they're attached to the cymbal-clanging monkey trap bathed in light at the end of this hallway. Here I'll show you what happens if you trigger the trap.
Wrong move, pal.
Death! That's what happens! So we're gonna turn off our torch, crouch down, and hope that our chameleon armor will keep us hidden before we can destroy that cymbal-clacking monkey.
Oh, what? Call me crazy, but I think our Vic's got something against fun.
Behind the monkey, we find the storage room key, which allows us to go through the next door. Here we find a disturbing scene, heads on pikes, and the entire place is bathed in darkness. This maze is heavily booby-trapped. We can kill one alien animatronic turret, loot a fusion core, and disarm quite a few weighted scales, tripwires, and other booby traps before finally coming upon the corpse of Private Tyler. Private Tyler was a gunner deserter, and on his body is his personal log. This is not a voiced holotape, it's all text, but using your Pip-Boy you can read it. We learned that Private Taylor was getting really tired of the gunners. He liked it when he was younger, but now that he's grown up, being a mercenary is starting to lose its charm. He comes up with plans to hole up in Goodneighbor or maybe Diamond City. He finally decides to leave the gunners when his friend Davis gets murdered. His sergeant killed Davis because Davis was back-talking about the sergeant. Taylor says, quote, "This is exactly why I need to get out of here." And he makes a note to keep his holotape close. He doesn't want the gunners to find it. It's here we learn that the gunner officers have short tempers and are not afraid to be violent or even to murder their own soldiers if they feel that their authority is threatened. Private Tyler planned his escape. He knew that he was assigned to a recon mission that was going through territory swarming with super mutants. His plan is to sneak away while his squadron is under attack, hoping that they won't miss him in the gunfight. Apparently it worked. He ran from his squadron and sought shelter in some building on the far western side of the Commonwealth. This, of course, places him close to Nuka-World. He begins to hunt for salvage while planning to get out of gunner territory until he ran into some feral ghouls. These may be the ghouls from Lexington. The ghouls pushed him further west than he was planning to go, but at least he's so far away that he's unlikely to meet any gunners. Apparently, he never met Harvey. He thought that the Nuka-World Transit Center was completely deserted until he heard a noise. This noise may have been the footsteps of the raiders coming back to the Gauntlet to clear out the corpses of previous Gauntlet victims. Maybe they killed him when they found him here. Or maybe he died to a trap while trying to escape. Whatever the reason, Private Taylor is yet another victim in this mad maze. Be sure not to trigger the nearby handmade tripwire because it's attached to a cage filled with rats. These can easily overwhelm and kill you, especially if you're a younger leveled character like mine. As we approach the door leading out of this room, Red Eye taunts us again.
Time for things to get dangerous. See if she survives what's next.
At the end of this hallway is a machine gun turret, and through the nearby locked security gate is a box filled with explosives. We find ourselves in a subway surrounded by fragmentation mines. I suggest turning off your light because you can actually see the glow from the fragmentation mines in the darkness with your torch turned off. There are probably 20 mines lying around, so do be careful. But good news for those of you who spec'd into Robotics Expert, we find a deactivated Galactron Watcher standing up in a Protectron charging station. You can hack this Watcher to turn it into a temporary companion. If you do, Red Eye gets furious.
Is this some kind of joke? I knew we should have put turrets in there.
At the end of this minefield, we find a rickety bridge spanning a bunch of pylons stuck in shallow water. At the end is a red door locked with an expert lock, and if you successfully unlock it, Red Eye is again furious.
What the hell? God damn, Derek! That door's supposed to be boarded up!
Now we can continue on from here, but I'm actually going to go back and kill the Mirelurks down in this water area, because down here we find another corpse. This is the corpse of Crag, a lightly armored super mutant. He's not well armed, he only has a short pipe rifle on his body. But we also find Crag's master plan.
Find Raider Play Park, crush raiders, make best meat bag, take stuff, win.
Sounds like this guy's been listening to Charlie Sheen. It's a sophisticated and elaborate plan by super mutant standards. It's a shame he didn't live to fulfill it. Also of note, this intellectually limited individual made it farther into the Gauntlet than 2 raiders, a teenage girl, and a gunner. The super mutants of the Commonwealth are indeed a unique species. After disarming a tension trigger on the exit door, we can disarm some tripwires over a floor covered in flammable oil, then disarm a slew of fragmentation grenades standing above us, connected to scale traps and makeshift bombs, which are all surrounded by flammable gas canisters, before entering a room filled with gas. Now, there are a couple of ways to survive this. If you take your good sweet time, you eventually die from the gas. The way to turn it off is to open up the rear door, which will cause all of the gas to rush out of the room. You open the door from a red terminal in the far left caged room, but this room is filled with rad roaches who will attack you, preventing you from using the terminal. So you gotta kill the rad roaches quickly and then hack the terminal. Now, you can only do this if you have high levels of lockpicking, it's an expert locked gate, and high levels of hacking. It's an expert locked terminal. If you don't, you gotta run around the facility and find keys. We find the password to the terminal in the first room on the right upon entry, lying on a desktop, and we find a key to the door stuck in the door lock of a broken door on the far side of the room. Either way, once you hack the terminal, you can use it to open the back door and force out all of the poisoned gas. Once done, we can explore, and here we find the body of Sergeant Marcks. This is a gunner, and on her corpse is Sergeant Marks' recon log.
Sergeant Marks, Day 1 log. I've been ordered to scout the area around Fort Hagen to eval the location for possible takeover. So far, not much left in the area. Buildings are picked over, although Red Rocket Filling Station has some potential. I'll check out the array tomorrow, but I'm setting up a secure spot to camp. Sergeant Marks, Day 2 log. Came across a civilian looking for help. He was already shot, so I left him to die. Not worth the bullet. Said a few raiders dragged his family off to some place called Nuka-World, but they were heavily supplied. Not within my orders, but I'm going to check it out. Sergeant Marcks, Day 3 log. I'm in some sort of fucking maze. I'm guessing that asshole I left to die intentionally led me here. Probably not even dying, so joke's on me. I've no idea how long this goes on. I've only got a few stim packs left. All I know is they better hope I don't make it, cause if I do, I'm going to kill every single living soul involved in this. Especially that goddamn announcer.
Looks like she was never meant to be here. She was exploring the Fort Hagen area, those were her orders, but she disobeyed orders when she found Harvey. Lured by the idea that Harvey's family might be wealthy, she went into the Gauntlet to kill them and steal their belongings. For this reason, I'm not terribly upset that she didn't make it. Heading up the stairs, we can go through the door surrounded by skulls on pikes to enter the Nuka-World maintenance shed.
That's right, Vic. Breathe that fresh air in while you can.
Here we get attacked by some of the new Nuka-World fauna that comes with this DLC, some flying ant swarms and some forager ants. Be careful when using VATS and Blitz as a melee character here. When using Blitz in VATS, the game actually pushed me outside the walls to Nuka-World. Here I am standing outside the walls to Nuka-World, gobsmacked. I just couldn't believe that this had happened. This could seriously mess up your game. You haven't even met the Overboss yet. Who knows what would happen if you tried to stroll into Nuka-World. Thankfully on the PC you can toggle clipping to just walk through the wall and go right back to where you were. But if this happens to you on a console, my goodness, I don't know what to tell you. Passing through this room, we reach what was the second toughest challenge for me on a low-level melee character. This character doesn't have any ammunition on her. I realize that's probably not a good decision, but I'm trying to do a melee build, and yet I can't attack these raiders who are shooting at me through a chain link fence. There's literally nothing I can do, so I died pretty fast. I managed to get through it using a Railroad Stealth Boy in combination with Deacon's Companion perk. His Companion perk extends the life of my stealth boys, and Railroad Stealth Boys tend to last longer than regular ones anyway, so I just snuck through the entire thing until I reached the door to Colter's arena. Along the way, we find the corpse of Ian, and on his body, Ian's holotape.
Got picked for Gauntlet cleanup again. I swear the system's rigged. Sorry, Ian, you drew the short straw. Again. Ian reset the maze traps. Ian clean out the bodies. Ian fix the turrets. Whatever, man. This time, I snagged some booze and chems off Marcks. He won't miss it. And I'm taking my sweet time.
He stole this booze and chems from one of the operator gang leaders. It looks like his punishment is that they locked him in the Gauntlet and probably picked him off like they're doing with us right now. Now that we've completed the Gauntlet, we then fight the Overboss.
Well, I'll be damned. You know what that sound means? Get your ass down to Colter's. The main event's about to begin.
Behind one of the Colter's, we find a teddy bear holding a big hunting knife. And then up the stairs, we can talk to Overboss Colter face to face, well, through an intercom.
You got me wired up yet, Gage?
Yeah, boss.
Finally. Now go shut off that damn alarm.
All right, I'm on it.
Now where? There's my next victim now. Don't look like much. Here's a quick rundown how this works. You go stock up, make yourself presentable. Then we're gonna give these folks a show. A show where I decorate these walls here with your lovely brains. Thanks to this suit, I'm the only one that wins this fight. Period. Think you're hot shit getting this far? Think again. Alright, Gage, let her through. Something tells me I'm really gonna enjoy this.
It's also interesting that Overboss Colter has a very distinctive British accent. He has a Cockney accent. It originates from the East End of London. My question is, what is a man from the East End of London doing in Boston in 2277? It's possible that he might have inherited an accent from parents who came to America before the bombs dropped, but usually children take on the accents of their peers, of the people they go to school with, of the kids that they play with, and not always the accents of their parents. I raised similar questions to these when we talked about Kate. How did Kate get her accent? If both of these characters got them from across the pond, then I wonder what kind of transatlantic travel exists in this post-apocalyptic wasteland. What did it take for Colter to get to America? That is an interesting question, but we should probably explore it in a different video. When we get to the locker room, one of the Overboss's underlings named Gage talks to us through the intercom and tells us his plan to defeat Colter. His goal is to get rid of Colter because he doesn't like the way Colter has been running the parks. He's been running the Nuka-World parks for his own personal benefit and amusement. He's been getting lazy, sitting up in his tower. He hasn't fulfilled any of the promises that he gave to the other raider gangs. So Gage wants to replace the guy, and he's thinking of replacing Colter with you.
Overboss Colter. His power armor's set up to draw energy from the electric grid in the arena. Damn thing's invincible. You want to win? I stashed a weapon in the lockers. Get it.
That's right, if you kill Colter, you become the Overboss, but Colter is cheating. You need to use water to short-circuit the electricity in his suit of power armor before you can kill him. To do so, you pick up the Thirst Zapper squirt gun in one of the lockers, and then tell Gage when you're ready.
Once the water hits Colter's electrically charged power armor, the circuits are gonna short out. It'll kill his defenses, but you only have so much time to do some damage before they recharge. You take him out, I promise you, it'll be worth every minute spent in this gauntlet.
But before we go, we've got one more corpse to explore. On the subway bench inside the locker room is the corpse of Anise. Based on her appearance and dress, she may have been a former raider. She's got purple hair and face paint on her face. On her body is Anise's suicide note. In it, we learn that Anise committed suicide. The raiders of Nuka-World trapped her in the gauntlet. She managed to, quote, play their little game. She got through the gauntlet, but at the very end, she says that she was done. She's not going to put on a big show for them. She's not going to give them the entertainment they want when she knows that this is a rigged game. She says, "Aren't you just the bravest bunch of guys to watch some guy in supercharged power armor beat up on someone with nothing? I'll blow my own brains out, thank you very much." And she does. At her feet is the pipe pistol that she used to do it. Now this place has a whole lot of ammunition. We find ammunition ranging from energy cells to mini nukes. We even find a minigun. Before going up, you can go to the bathroom and through a hole in the wall to find a fusion generator. These are the generators that provide electricity to the Cola Cars arena. If you loot one of the fusion cores, Porter Gage even makes a comment to the effect.
Huh? Power to the arena's down by 30%. You do that? Not bad.
Once you're ready, you can head topside to finally come face to face with Overboss Colter.
All right! Disciples, are you ready for blood? And the pack, are you ready for things to get wild? Operators, are you ready to see me notch another kill? Are you ready to die? Let's do that!
I know. Yeah, I tried doing it without chems the first time. We're gonna use some Psycho, some Jet, some Med-X. Yeah, that sounds good. Some Buff Out. All right. Now we're ready for take 2. And the water does its trick. With Overboss Colter writhing in electric pain, we can then beat the living snot out of him with our battle axe. To the shock of the crowd, Overboss Colter falls dead. It's then we learn that the raiders have agreed that whomever can kill an Overboss in Kolokar's arena becomes the next Overboss. The raid leaders of the other factions, the Pack, the Disciples, and the Operators, are leery at best. We learn why as we explore Nuka-World later.
Hey, we talked about this. She survived the Gauntlet. She was smart enough to take my advice and strong enough to kill Colter. She's what we need.
But Porter Gage defends you. He wants you to become Overboss, and he wants you to become successful, because his success is now connected to yours. The other raider gangs are tired of Gage's promises not being fulfilled, so he's risking everything by making you Overboss.
All I'm asking is that you trust me on this and give it a shot. I swear, it'll be worth it.
Once done, you'll randomly get a quest called Amoral Combat, which will send you back to the Kolokar's arena. It is then that you can meet and fight some of the other people, the Gunners and the Raiders, and even the Brotherhood of Steel Soldiers, who got caught in the Gauntlet and finally fought their way to the Kolokar's arena. And that is the full story of the Gauntlet. Some of the deaths, like that of Sergeant Marcks, are less sad. Some of the others are absolutely tragic, like poor Ophelia. But the Raiders here in Nuka-World are responsible for them all. These people died just so these raiders could sit in their stands and laugh, just so that Red Eye could narrate their deaths live on public radio, just so that raiders could have something to talk about while getting high on chems. This is Raider culture. And we will be covering Raider culture more as we explore more of Nuka-World. The Nuka-World DLC is filled with lots of interesting lore and a bunch of new cool places. So if you want to make sure that you don't miss my next video on Nuka-World, be sure to subscribe and click that little bell notification button when you do. What are your thoughts on the Gauntlet in Nuka-World? Was it too hard for you? Did you walk away defeated? Or did you think that it was way too easy and you just breezed right through? Let me know in the comments below. I read all of your comments and I use your comments as inspiration for my future videos. And if you're interested in getting an Oxhorn or a Fallout 4 inspired t-shirt, check out my online Teespring shop where I sell a wide range of t-shirts, some with Oxhorn images and others with Fallout 4 faction images and quotes. I'm working on a brand new line of t-shirts, so this store will update soon. You can give me your suggestions for new t-shirts by taking the poll that I link to in the description of this video. And if you like what I do and you want to support me in a more personal way, consider becoming one of my patrons on Patreon. Patreon subscribers get access to a private channel on my Discord server, as well as a bunch of other cool Oxhorn perks. But more than anything, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. It means the world to me, and it encourages me to come back every single day. I'll see you tomorrow morning, as always, bright and early, with a brand new video.